The target is locked in on these two. Jett Lawrence, the defending champion of Monster Energy Supercross, and his brother Hunter on the come up after a great rookie season. That's who everyone is aiming for, and that's who we're talking about in episode 2 of the Racer X preview shows for the Monster Energy Supercross Championship, brought to you by Monster Energy, Maxima, Fly Racing, and Motosport. Be sure to check the QR codes on the screen for the latest deals from Motosport, and let's go racing. Welcome to episode 2, Racer X, Monster Energy Supercross season preview. It's all part of the Super Motocross World Championship coming for 2025. Starts January 11th at Anaheim, Angel Stadium, of course. And of course, I'm Jason Weigandt, Jason Thomas, former pro racer, Steve Matthes, former factory pro mechanic, me, not a former pro anything. But I did dodge the bullet. I did dodge the Steve Matthes. Why did you leave someone out of show one? I put like a special math hex equation to say we already know what we're getting out of the Lawrence brothers. So let's talk about the intrigue of Chase Sexton, Eli Tomac, and Cooper Webb in show one, and talk about the Lawrence brothers now. And the time has come. Steve, is there anything to say really about Jett Lawrence? Is there anything to say besides he's the champ, he's the favorite? Is there anything else to say?
No, he's Carmichael. He's Chad Reed, 2004. He's Jeremy McGrath, 2001. He's
Stu 07.
He's Stu 07. Like, he's the 700-pound gorilla in this class. And there's one issue I have, one worry I have. But other than that, man, he's absolutely phenomenal. Incredible rookie season. Surpassed any expectations that I had for him. And, it's fantastic, man.
Yeah, JT, anything more?
No, it's just, where does this go from here? We all know what Jett Lawrence is. He truly is a known quantity. We haven't seen much like him. And I would, we're comparing him to a lot of legends of the sport. I don't know where the end road is. I think he might turn into his own thing. Like 20 years from now, they're going to be like all those people you mentioned, and then the Jett Lawrence of 2025, 28, whatever. I think that is truly possible for him. If we get there, that's for him to decide and everybody else. But I haven't said this in a long time. I think this kid has an opportunity to kind of rewrite everything there is. Everything we thought we knew, he has a chance to rewrite all of that. Yeah,
he's so good so early on the 450. We forget normally rookie years are tough and guys get better year 2, especially year 3 in 450 Supercrosses where they really hit their stride. You almost forget that because Tomac and Sexton and Webb and Anderson and Roxon and all these guys were there last year, and he still won the title as a rookie. So, Steve, it's kind of mind-bending to think, oh, wait, he should probably just keep getting better from here. Although you say there is something that you're worried about.
Yeah, and it's minor, but I was one of those guys last year, like, hey, bro, you're talking 72 wins? Back it down, man. It's a great Jeremy McGrath. And I'm like, maybe there's something there. He's that damn good, man. And his ability to make up time after he makes a mistake, he threw away the Dallas race. He's going to get smarter from that. So the small stuff that, he made mistakes on, he's going to figure that out. The only thing I'm worried about, and it's probably nothing, is the lack of testing time, the lack of time this offseason on the new bike. They took some time off at the Motocross the Nations. They had 5 or 6 rides going into Paris. He won everything but one, but didn't look as good. And then, rode production bikes in Australia. He had a rough AusX Open. And they're clamping down, and they're going to have a month or so to get these new 2025 Honda CRFs working for them. They switched to Get ECUs. Now they switched to Get because they felt like it was better, but how does that affect Lars and his button? And so there's a small bike worry for me, but I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, and just for people listening to this right now who are like, what? Hunter won a moto the very first time he got on that 2025, and then they went 1-2 in SMX. Steve, we've all heard, all three of us, that the transition to Supercross on that new bike has been a little tougher than how it eased right into motocross and then the hybrid tracks, right?
Yeah, and normally, look, I'm a guy who poo-poos bike setup. With the former pro racer here likes to blame bike setup on everything. I was behind the scenes, so I kind of know the BS behind that. But there's no doubting that Hunter was worse in Paris. Jett wasn't as dominant. The changes to the bike from talking to the Honda guys are substantial for Supercross. So I do believe there's something there.
This is not a huge problem, right, though, JT? I wouldn't imagine.
No, it's something that I think they're going to work through. And when you watch episode one, we talk about all the ways that Jett Lawrence can be beat. How are they going to attack him? How are they going to be opportunistic? I think that this could be one. The newness of the motorcycle. They have been a little bit vocal about it's not perfect yet. It's not doing exactly what they want it to do in Supercross. So is there a window of opportunity for these guys, especially early in the season, to kind of jump on that? If things aren't perfect, if he's just a little uncomfortable, if he's not the Jett Lawrence that we saw in Pro Motocross in 2023 and really all of 2024, can they exploit that? I don't know. I personally think Hunter will be more susceptible to that than Jett will. Jett seems to be able to overcome these things. And I'll share something on to that point that Jett told us, and it was one of the notes, and I drew a circle around it when we were talking to him in Anaheim Stadium. Steve, you weren't there. He said that
I was in Paris.
Not the same.
This was after that. This was after we got to talk about him and reflect on Paris and Australia. We got to reflect on Australia as well with him.
Yeah. I talked to them in a real casual setting where there wasn't recorders and know everything. So really you get the truth there. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Paris. Everyone's known for being super open with you. The thing that he stated was they don't try to adapt, or they don't try to make the motorcycle do what they do well. They try to adapt their riding style to what the motorcycle wants them to do. And I've never seen anybody do that. Maybe it was a thing. Maybe somebody else had come across that, or that. I've never heard anybody in my life in 40 plus years of racing approach it that way of say, okay, well, the motorcycle wants to do this, so I'm going to change everything that I do to do that. It's always the opposite. It's always, well, I need it to turn better. I need it to be better in the whoops. I need the front end higher. I need the rear end higher, all those things. So I need the motorcycle to do exactly what I need it to do, not the other way around. And that is such a unique thing. We're going to find out if they can do it, because that's what they're doing with this 2025. 2024 did certain things. They rode the motorcycle a certain way because that's what the motorcycle wanted them to do. The 2025 wants them to do something very different. They're adapting their riding style, their techniques to get there. And yes, they're going to test and do all these things, but it was such a unique thing. And maybe it's all pixie dust. I don't know. Maybe there's nothing to it, but it was a very enlightening comment for me and it really furthers this narrative of they do things differently. They don't look at racing the same way. They don't look at, Hunter especially. He doesn't look at the result the same way that maybe I would. The emotion is not the driving factor for a lot of these things. So I don't know. It's just a very, very interesting comment. But the proof will be in the pudding in 2025. The change seemed to be better for Pro Motocross last year. Will it be better, the same, or not quite as good in Monster Energy Supercross as part of the SMX World Championship?
The only other rider I know who's spoken along those lines is Ryan Villopoto did say that he knew, the Kawasaki was never going to get underneath the inside of Dunge's nimble light KTM, and he worked on outside. But then you talk to guys who were teammates with Villopoto, like Jake Weimer, right? The bike was set up for Villopoto. So it's a sliding scale. But Villopoto did have that theory of I have to play to the bike's strengths and not change the bike's strengths to be what I want it to be. But I don't know. I have a feeling after just a few rounds, they'll probably have it dialed and this will become a non-factor. One other thing to think about, and the three of us don't try to dive into these topics too much. This becomes kind of gossipy, but both Hunter and Jett, especially after they got to go to Australia for the AUS-X Open and have that home crowd cheer for them, they were very adamant about the feeling they're getting, the vibe they're getting from the fans in America. Maybe not quite where we thought this was going 3 or 4 years ago, where they looked like, especially Jett, like the perfect glitz, glamour, no imperfection superstar. I mean, he got booed at races last year. And that 72 comment, Steve, you mentioned, that was part of it. I think he's saying, I just need to have goals to keep me in the game so I don't want to retire early. I think that's all he meant by that. But whatever, perception is reality. Does any of that affect on the racetrack? It seems like it's affected Jett's heart. I don't know if it affects his results. Steve, are you worried about any of that? That's why we don't get that deep into these topics on these types of shows. Do you think it matters?
It's a little interesting, the strategy they're taking, right, on their interview on Racer X that we posted. And it's interesting to me that they care, because I'm old enough that So remember, Carmichael was booed. Nobody liked the guy from Australia named Chad coming over and making excuses when he lost. And these things are ebbs and flows of professional sports. I would suggest that they don't, and it's amplified, of course, in 2024 with social media. But I would suggest they don't listen to that. They don't use it as a reason. They don't talk about it. They are hugely popular. They're both cool kids. Family's great. It's a little weird the tack they're taking, yes, in my opinion, because they're going to have haters no matter what they do.
No, it's true. You can't win more than about 50% of the crowd in anything these days. But JT, does this matter racing-wise? That's all we're here to really talk about. Does that really affect the results?
I think it does, but maybe not necessarily in 2025. And where I'm going with that is we opened this episode talking about, can Jett rewrite history books? Can he go after the vaulted 72 wins, right? All those things. Can he do it?
Yeah.
The risk comes in this new aspect of the conversation we're talking about, the pushback and the backlash, and however you want to phrase it. He's getting a lot of hate on social media. People are taking shots at him. There's this brewing Hayden Deegan drama between the two, and that's weighing on a 21-year-old Jett Lawrence. So to me, success in 2025, I think, is almost a certainty outside of, crashes or injuries. Those things are part of racing, but is he going to be the same rider he was? I do think he is. What can preclude him from going after records, from being this guy that was like, he might be in his own realm when he's said and done, is the thing you're talking about. Does he, win a lot and get bored and say, you know what, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go chase some other something. Or does he be like, you know what, this isn't fun. I don't like people hating me. I don't like people taking shots at me and calling me names. And because I just want to race my dirt bike. I'm not a bad person. I don't do the wrong things. I'm not getting in trouble. Like, is he just like, you know what, I made $30 million in 5 years. I'm out. Like, I'm out of here. I don't need any of this. That, though, to me, those are the risks. It's not. Well, go ahead.
30 million might be a low estimate, by the way.
Okay, yeah, sure. Whatever. 50 million. The point is, does he get to the point where he's like, I have all the money and this isn't worth it anymore. I don't want to deal with these people. I don't want to deal with the mental strain that this is putting on me, whether he should or shouldn't, whether it's perceived and it's easy for us to go, block all that out. Who cares? That is easy for us to do. But I can tell you, sitting in that room, and Weege, you can attest to this, right now, it's not easy for him to block all that out and just say that none of that matters. As he gets older, it will. Me at 45, Steve, you're older than I am. Weege, you're older. We see it. Well, you are. I'm just saying we have life.
Yeah, no one needs that attack on me. Yeah.
What? Saying you're older than I am?
Yeah.
Just facts.
Oh, okay.
Just facts.
Well,
I agree. He did say that it's okay. He's just using that for motivation. And here's that has worked for many athletes. I just think that that's not Jett's actual nature. I don't think he likes being the villain. That's not who we know him well enough to know he's a happy-go-lucky, fun, not a bad dude. And I don't think that's not his real cloak. He might be putting that on.
Yep.
I don't think that's who he really is, JT.
No. And Weege, you tell me, after sitting there and talking with him, it's okay for him to say, I'm using this as motivation. Did it feel like he was? Because it didn't feel like, you know what? Watch this. They think that was something. That is not what I got at all. Like, this looked and felt like it was weighing heavily upon him. That's my opinion leaving there. We have been around him a lot over the last few years, and he's always got a smile on his face, and he's light. He was not in a light mood in those meetings. And it struck me leaving there, like, this kid's going through it. Like, he's got everything in the world going for him, and he looks like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Yeah, I don't think it comes naturally for him to have to wear the black hat as the villain. Now, Steve,
listen, wait, I got one more thing. One more thing.
Do you have some breaking news that are you using your investigative journalism skills as we speak on this show?
Yes, and I'll get to that in a second. But, the Lawrence family with Lucas Myrtle as the agent, they've done a fantastic job marketing themselves, and they had the VIP program at the Supercross races, and they are very out there in promotion. They did their own press conferences for a number of years. We got the donuts being sold at the races. We got all of this, right? Well, guess what we're seeing? A little bit of backlash on that. If you want to maybe block some of that out, and we brought this up with Eli Tomac on the Pulp Show this year, Eli's just like radio silent with a photo saying everything's great. See you at Anaheim. Eli was like, "You live by the sword, you die by the sword." He actually used that quote, and he is absolutely right. So some of this is brought on by the way the Lawrences and their agent have marketed themselves. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but you can't ask for both sides of the promotion and the press conferences and the donuts and the VIPs and all of that, and not think there could be some backlash. So, anyways, that's just a thought on that. I don't hope they don't let it bother them. It'll all swing around in about 5 years, and people will not like Hayden Deegan and like the Jett Lawrence because he'll be the veteran, right?
Yeah, he'll be the Tomac.
Yeah,
5 years from now.
It's a circle of life.
Totally.
But actually, so one of the things I was worried about with the switch to Get ECUs was, Lars has the whole shot button. I've made that joke a whole bunch of times because the starts for Hunter and Jett and even Chase Sexton on the Honda were so unreal. They've really got that bike dialed in. And there's a gentleman over there named Toru from Japan who was the ECU expert. And JT, we tried to get Toru on the Washougal live show. That didn't really work out. But I checked in with Lars Lindstrom, the team manager, and I felt like, is Toru kicked to the curb? Is Toru sad because it's not an HRC ECU? Now it's Get ECU. And Lars has informed us, breaking news, that Toru is an overall bike expert and he is learning the Get ECUs. And so people, if you're worried about Toru and the button and the ECUs and the starts, it sounds like, according to Lars, we're good to go. Love Toru.
Wow. That is, no other preview show is giving you that level of insider info. So well done, Steve. I hate to give credit.
Steve could not pick out Toru if he was walking.
No, I totally know Toru. No, I put Toru on social media. I put a photo of him. I said, this is your guy. I
still claim that if he was walking down the sidewalk and you walk next to him, you wouldn't know it was Toru.
No, Toru looks like a grizzled veteran with so much knowledge.
Oh, yeah. Great. That's a great analysis and description of
grizzled
like
guy.
Grizzled veteran.
Do you know that he was Bole's mechanic in 91 when he won the title?
Is that going to help you identify him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Legend. You're going to be like, that looks like the guy in 1991. No.
Toru is a legend. I will not have this smeared.
I'm smearing you, not him. I'm smearing you.
He's learning the Get ECU. Lars has the button. That's all a go.
Well, it's going to help our next rider. We'll talk about. I'm going to transition over to Hunter Lawrence. Thanks for Monster Energy back in our shows as always. Of course, our sponsors are Fly Racing and Maxima. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Hunter Lawrence, you touched on it real light, JT. A completely different outlook on racing than I think most of us have come to understand or expect. I think it's jarring because we ask him questions about expectations and confidence and these narrative mental game things that everyone talks about in the offseason. He does not subscribe to any of those things. Kind of like Toru, it's like a math equation for Hunter Lawrence. It's like, if the bike does this and I ride it like this and my fitness is like this, X plus Y plus Z equals something. He's not going to the races saying, I should be top 3, should be top 5, I should win. He's just looking to execute, and what he gets is what he gets. My question, Steve, is where are we with Hunter Lawrence now? Is he right there in the Sexton, Tomac, Cooper Webb group? Is he not there? He wasn't there in Supercross last year as a rookie, but he's got a lot better as the year went on. Is Hunter Lawrence
we saw
anybody right now?
We saw the Nationals. We saw SMX. Yeah. He was leading Denver for a while, got second at Denver. Yep. He surprised me. I put him a little bit behind that group last year. And by the end, he was better than a lot of those guys. And he was right there with his brother at times. So, yeah, I mean, I think that we can now put him in that group with show one, right? I think he's right on that edge. He was pretty impressive, man. And think about how terrible his season started at A1, missing the main event. And he deserves a lot of props for coming in and impressing. And can he win a race this year? Yeah, sure. You can put him in that group of, as we know, only 5 to 6 guys win a year, but he's in that group for sure.
Yeah, JT, is it in play for them to be just the 2 best guys?
It's possible. I think those other 3 are going to have something to say about that, but that shouldn't deter us from talking about how great Hunter Lawrence was. If you look at his trajectory in all of 2024, it was nothing short of incredible. A1 couldn't have gone worse. Now, it wasn't his fault, right? Bad circumstances, first turn, like all those things, wasn't a true reflection of how he was riding, but he got better and better all the way through. All the way to Las Vegas, he continued to get better throughout SMX. So Do we see more of that? Is that, are we approaching a ceiling, or is he just going to continue to improve? We'll see. But I'll tell you, all that is awesome. I thought, Steve kind of covered that. To me, the most interesting aspect of our conversation in California with him was we didn't even talk about his racing very much. We talked about him helping Jett with the mental side. Like it's probably unfair to Hunter because we spent 30 minutes talking about the whole dynamic of family and Jett involved. And like, it wasn't even about how awesome Hunter was and how can he go win a title. And so I left there when he walked out. I'm like, man, he at some point he's got to be so tired of talking about Jett in some way or another. And he's so protective of Jett that I'm sure he doesn't mind, but it almost Jett is this overbearing, overshadowing presence on Hunter all the time as his little brother. We really should be focusing on how incredible this run Hunter has been on. And it really started in 2022 in the West Coast Supercross Series. And we saw those flashes where he was challenging Christian Craig. That's where it started. And it's really gotten better and better in 2023. He goes out, wins titles. 2024, we saw it's just been a meteoric rise ever since those flashes in 2022. And it's, I think if you kind of look back over history, it's a very, very underrated rise to the top of the sport.
I think that speaks to that math equation type thing. Yes, on the outside, I think people want to look at it like in the shadow, challenging his brother. What is that like? He is of the mindset of rising tide lifts all boats. And this includes also their buddy and teammate, Chance Hymas in the 250 class. It's if everyone in this program that rides at this track, all these people, if we just all try to make each other better, it's going to work out in the long run for all of us. So if anyone is expecting any sort of rivalry between the brothers, it is not going to happen because I think they have results to prove it's better when we approach it this way. It's just not what we're used to because we're all here for the drama, right? And Hunter is not about the drama at all. We got sponsors on the show, Fly Racing and Maxima. JT, pick who you think is going to fly. This is really going to be a tough one here in 2025. Who's going to be good?
Well, yeah, fair answers, I think both, but I'm on record as saying I think that Jett Lawrence is the best rider in the world. And that doesn't mean he wins every race or wins every championship till the end of time, but anywhere on the planet, I don't know, maybe some remote sand track, I would say it's going to be a big fight with the MXGP guy, but on a neutral site, on a neutral track, in any form of discipline, Supercross, Motocross, or SMX hybrid, I pick Jett Lawrence every single time. So how am I not going to pick him in this scenario as well?
Where are you at with this, Steve, as the SC1 with Maxima?
Put the shine on Jett Lawrence. Yeah, he's going to win the title again. He's going to be great. I'm telling you, yeah, he's the man right now. He's phenomenal. He's just going to get better as he moves into the prime of his career, which is also scary for the rest of the guys. And I'm sorry if I'm hurting feelings, but yeah, Jett Lawrence. And let's not forget Toru. He's going to figure this out. Toru's still a big part of that program. Legend.
It is a scary thought to think, yes, Hunter is only coming off of a rookie 450 Supercross season as well. They have a lot of room for growth to get better. They're actually just getting started. You kind of forget that because the success is already there. They're not veterans yet. So it's going to be tough on everybody else. That's show 2. Thanks to Monster. Thanks to Fly. Thanks to Maxima. Thanks to you folks for watching. We'll be back to show 3. Other guys who are probably not happy they weren't in the first 2 shows.